Dear Naughty Dog.
Hi, Naughty Dog.
Hi, it's me, Austin. I really liked The Last of Us 2, which is apparently a controversial thing to say, which, oh well, I liked it. It's not really relevant to this video at all, but I had to get it off my chest. And it might be an important preface before a video where it might seem like I'm being a little nitpicky. I genuinely...
Yep. The Last of Us 2 did not perform as well as The Last of Us 1, the first one. So yeah, if you think that The Last of Us 2 is good, then my response will be... Jokes aside, I'm going to continue watching this video. Alright, joking.
genuinely like this game, and nothing I'm about to say after this point moving forward is gonna change that. With that said, I have to get something off my chest. Soda bottle silencers make no freaking sense. Whew, feel good, feel limbered, feel loose, ready to do this, and...
Let's go.
What is that sound?
Let's go.
Is that furious typing?
Really, Austin's silencer is suppressor. Everybody knows that. Well, everyone knows anything about guns.
I found you. Someone is down in the comments section already angry about my use of the term silencer to describe these things you put on the tips of firearms in order to make them quieter instead of the word suppressor. Now, look. Hey, look at me. Look at me. Stop it. The Wikipedia article on this device, it is titled Silencer. The National Firearms Act of 1934 cites silencers along with, kinda hilariously, mufflers, and the original patent filed by Hiram Percy Maxim, the son of the guy who invented the Maxim machine gun, also says silencer on it. Stop it! Stop it with this fake debate that nobody cares about! Silencer, muffler, suppressor, all these terms will be used interchangeably here and elsewhere in the video, and you just...
And this video, you'll be saying water bottles. Oh my god, I just thought this. It's 12.8 million subscribers. Different from right now. I just checked, it's like 14.3, 14.4 subscribers.
Gotta like, get over it, bro. Just, it's okay to let it go. Just let go. It doesn't matter. Anyway, where was I? Oh right, soda bottle silencers. These are a thing you can craft in The Last of Us 2 and attach to the end of your 9mm pistol in order to render it completely and totally silent, allowing you to shoot enemies with bullets without producing a sound at all.
Technically speaking, that's not possible. Sound will still be there, just that you'll be muffled, alright? You'll be suppressed. You'll be silenced slightly. But having said that, right, silencer works differently from water bottles. Maybe it can work for the first try. The second time it pulls the trigger, it will work. It will not work. So it's a one-hit kill, I guess. One hit usage.
The required materials are plastic bottles and cloth. And you know what? I'm actually gonna give Naughty Dog some leeway on this. It would be a bit mean of me to single them of all people out for having a totally and completely unrealistically quiet silencer in their game when they didn't exactly create the trope of silencers making bullets make either no noise or that little whistly pew 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 noise from GoldenEye. It would just be like colossally mean to be like, well, homemade
Thanks for Patreon, by the way.
silencers could never completely silence a firearm, therefore gotcha, The Last of Us 2. You done goofed. Sincerely, Austin.
Aw, sincerely, Austin. Thank you so much for watching this video. Appreciate it. I literally just used two of the intros in this video. This video must be very weird. Anyways, let's continue.
Because the thing is, silencers, the way they're portrayed in video games and movies and TV shows, too numerous to even begin to start naming here, are themselves complete and total nonsense. And it kind of seems like we like it that way. Which is more fun? A gun that makes zero noise, allowing a super secret spy to do super secret stuff? Or a gun that's still very loud and still obviously a gun that brings everyone nearby running to your location to beat you up or arrest you or whatever? Obviously, the first one is more fun, although way less realistic.
More fun, less realistic.
You see, making a gunshot absolutely silent is frankly impossible unless you're somehow firing it in a vacuum, and that's because the noise comes from not one, not two, but actually 3 separate events. And in order to get into why silencing bullets is so difficult and ultimately pick apart these weird plastic contraptions, we really gotta talk about the noise and how exactly guns work first.
Education.
The basic way that a firearm works is not exactly changed all that much since their invention sometime in the 12th century, where it was basically just a metal tube filled with gunpowder with a projectile or shrapnel packed on top of it. You light the gunpowder on fire, it catches really quickly, heating up rapidly expanding gases very fast.
Very fast.
These rapidly expanding gases are contained by the tube, which allows pressure to build up
Shoot the bullets out
very quickly. This pressure has only one way to escape, and that is out the front end of the tube. So that's where it goes, propelling whatever's in front of it along the way. Fans of my show who actually watched my Doom video about exploding barrels will recognize this description for what it actually is.
Pressurized.
An explosion. Firearms use explosions in order to propel projectiles, and this is one of the biggest sources of noise from a gun. If you've ever held a bullet yourself, you might be surprised at how light they are and wonder how something so small can possibly be harmful. Even a .22, which for some reason by some people gets treated as though they're not dangerous, are easily fatal in spite of being tiny.
Tiny but fatal. Just fatal. You know, it's not like injury, just fatal.
Guns achieve this by taking advantage of physics. If I shoot a 2.5 gram .22 out of a gun at 370 meters per second, it'll slap into you with 171.125 joules of kinetic energy, all concentrated on this very tiny object.
Very tiny object, that's very dangerous.
More than capable of piercing through your flesh and organs, causing massive damage on the way through. That is the very basic principle behind all firearms. Move a very small thing very fast. And here's our second major problem and source of noise: the bullet traveling through the air itself. Your average .22 leaves the muzzle of a firearm at 370 meters per second, which is 27 meters per second faster than the speed of sound for pretty much every altitude you'll be firing a gun at. And this is a very big problem for silencing bullets, because traveling faster than the speed of sound creates a ton of noise in the form of a pressure wave. This is because when an object travels faster than the speed of sound, it compresses the air molecules in front of it, creating a pressure difference between the gases in the atmosphere at rest and the gases in front of the object that's traveling. As these gases move out of the way, they expand again, sending powerful ripples through the gas itself, which creates a loud crack sound as the force moves through the air and dissipates as heat energy. This is what's known as a sonic boom.
The sonic boom! Yeah.
And any object moving faster than the speed of sound will create one.
Fighter jets, heck, even rockets.
This can be mitigated with subsonic ammunition, but this is actually pretty rare, and even non-supersonic bullets still make sound as they cut through the air, with the trade-off being that the bullets become a lot less effective. Silencers
a lot less effective, but still deadly. Right? Lethal. People die from it, alright? Makes sense?
of all varieties can do nothing about this noise, with even low-powered bullets making loud, whip-cracking sounds as they travel forward. The last source of noise from a firearm is pretty minuscule, but it's still worth mentioning regardless, and it's the action from the firearm itself.
So, remember? Alright, just a moment. It's
the
noise from explosion, noise from traveling through air, noise from firearm actions.
action from the firearm itself. The clack of the hammer hitting the bullet and the slide being thrown back and then forward again back into place by the explosion from the bullet very, very quickly. All of that is surprisingly noisy, even if you ignore everything else. It's not super loud, but it's definitely enough to grab someone's attention if they're nearby, especially if they're on edge. Which brings us to how silencers actually work, and you can actually get a lot of insight into how they work if you just cut them open and look at a cross-section of them. Inside the tube of a silencer are all these baffles placed at precise
A device used to restrain the flow of a fluid, gas, or loose material, or to prevent the spreading of sound or light in a particular direction. Something like the hose from the kitchen.
angles. These serve three primary functions. 1. To disrupt expanding gases while still allowing the bullet to travel unimpeded. Number 2. Redirecting sound waves away from the opening of the firearm. And 3. Helping to shrink the expanding gases. The disruption part is easy, just gets in the way of the gases as they leave the muzzle and redirects them upward into their cavities. The second function they serve is really similar to the first, but instead of redirecting expanding gases, it's actually redirecting sound waves. Sound waves exiting the muzzle will bounce against the baffling and be redirected into the cavity, where they will continue to bounce around, losing energy each time it's reflected as heat into the silencer each time it's reflected, until ultimately it completely runs out of energy. This is actually really similar to how soundproof paneling in recording studios work. The third function they serve is actually really clever. They essentially act as little heat sinks that pull heat away from the gases, cooling them down, which in turn makes them condense, reducing their explosive energy quite significantly. Some silencers
Still deadly, but slightly softer.
even employ oil or water or some other form of gel to help pull heat away even more effectively. That said,
Maybe it's like a non-Newtonian solid.
these baffles pull heat energy away by themselves heating up, which is one of the reasons why they can become less effective under sustained fire, and that's essentially it. They reduce the noise from a firearm by basically slapping the gas away from the place it wants to go, out of the gun in this instance, and telling it to literally take a chill pill. This alone can almost entirely negate the noise created from the expanding gases, which is quite a lot. In many cases, it can actually make lower powered firearms quiet enough as to not require hearing protection while firing them at a range. That said, it does absolutely nothing to the sound from the action of the gun itself, nor does it do anything to impede the sonic boom created by the bullet traveling through the air once it's out of the gun. Bullets fired from a gun can reach over 180 decibels of noise from 1 meter away from the source, and silencers can reduce this to under 160 decibels.
But that is still too loud.
Sound measured in decibels is actually pretty tricky, as it is a measurement of
Logarithm.
power that depends upon distance quite a bit, and something that's 160 decibels at 1 meter away may only be like 80 decibels a football field away, and a 20 decibel decrease of noise is not insignificant. Every 3 decibels decreased is half as loud, or twice as quiet if you will, as the value 3 decibels above it, meaning a gun fired at 180 decibels is over 64 times louder than a gun fired at 160 decibels, but 160 decibels is still very loud. 160 decibels is the sound level of a live rock concert. It is not subtle. It is louder than the sound of a jet aircraft taking off from over a quarter of a football field away. It is loud and it is unmissable. So yeah, silencers in video games and TV and movies are, to put it mildly, purely a work of fiction, so I will not be judging these plastic silencers in The Last of Us by that standard, but rather, if they can come anywhere close to the effectiveness of industrial-made silencers, I'm going to consider it a win on their part. So, can a plastic water bottle be just as effective as a real silencer? Well, it's complicated.
Maybe. If it really does work, it can only work once.
There are, as far as I'm aware, no official studies on the effectiveness of improvised silencers, and I hate to weigh in on subjects that have almost no scientific research in them. But this is a decent exception because among hunters and firearm enthusiasts, this is one of those things that's kind of like folk knowledge, passed from one person to another by word of mouth via oral tradition, like basket weaving or folk tales. And while getting empirical evidence of their effectiveness is difficult, there's a lot of individual experimentation and demonstrations that are out there, and because of that, I can make some pretty educated assumptions. Survival
pretty educated assumptions.
Guides written by a mix of ex-military members, totally normal outdoor survivalists, and doomsday preppers all basically agree that improvised silencers require two things: plastic soda bottles and some form of baffling, whether it's newspapers or old rags or t-shirts, something that will diffuse the shockwaves from the exploding gases by absorbing the energy from the sound waves and dissipating them as heat. This is actually really similar to how industrial silencers work, except that industrial silencers
Are more complicated and more, proficient.
rely more on damping, which is deflecting sound waves, causing them to bounce around endlessly until they run out of energy, while the improvised ones utilize absorption, which is pretty
Damping and absorption of noise. Different.
similar, but it relies more on soft fibers that actually bend and move on a molecular level more, kind of like slowing a runaway shopping cart by getting in front of it and slowing it down. This removes energy from sound waves in a completely different way. This use of rags and bottles in-game confirms that this is the method used by the game, and that's how they're supposed to work, but do they actually work? Well, that's tricky. It's really hard to say, to be entirely honest, because technically, the best way to figure it out would be for me to test it myself, but aside from not even having a FOID card, silencers are 100% super duper illegal in my state, which is Illinois, and even in Texas, where my editor and her gun-loving husband, dang old dadgum, has to wait up to 9 dadgum months and pay over dang old $200 Uncle Sam to register a god-dang plastic silencer. I tell you what, not worth it. So instead, I watch pretty much every video under the sun testing plastic bottle silencers, and I have arrived at a conclusion with a few caveats. Plastic bottle silencers, if properly made on low-powered firearms, work just as well as manufactured silencers at silencing guns, especially if you're like this crazy guy who actually constructed plastic baffling to mimic how industrial silencers are actually constructed. They can reduce the explosion noise from expanding gases if properly sealed with tape against the barrel and have adequate baffling to about the same level as industry silencers. However, the rounds have to be low powered, and I mean that most of them really struggle even with 9mm rounds. Second of all, they only get one, and I mean this, one shot off.
See, I knew it, because silencer will fail. After one shot, you can shoot twice.
Period. Not a couple, not 3, not 5, 1. Because the expanding gases and the bullet itself will absolutely and utterly obliterate the bottle. Period. What's more, the bottle has to be quite big, and the silencers we see in The Last of Us Part 2 are minuscule. For a 9mm, you need at least a liter, probably a liter and a half of a bottle sticking out on the other end, but this tiny little Nalgene bottle-looking thing looks like it's like half a liter tops. But that being said, the handcrafted silencer, when compared to other video games, is surprisingly plausible. I mean, if we give them wiggle room for being way hardier than they'd actually be and ignore the fact that no silencers work the way they're portrayed in fiction, I have to say this is actually one of the more legitimate weird things I've looked at in a while. It's certainly a hell of a lot better than whatever the heck The Walking Dead did. Is that a flashlight? Taping a flashlight to the end of your firearm will accomplish nothing, Rick. What are you doing? Get your life together. Sincerely, Austin.
The Walking Dead, come on!
I want to give a quick shout out to my high-level patrons for making this show possible. Jared Beecher, Draven Stanley, Emma Sims, Francis Gagnon, Adadam TP, Dan Robb, Nicholas Bollinger, Marissa Resnick, Siggy, and Mazer. Be sure to subscribe to The Game Theorist if you have not already, and I will see you next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you do like this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and comment down below if you have anything to share with us. Thank you so much, and don't forget to follow my channel as well. But hey, that's just a science. The science of. Thanks for watching. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this video. This video came out from the YouTube channel The Game Terrace back in the year 2020. If you do like this video, please remember to watch more of their videos and show support for them. Because I'm just a fan of their work, just a fan, you know. Thank you so much and I'll see you in my next video. Appreciate it and I'll see you. Bye bye. Subscribe!